Hello and welcome to Teenagers Untangled, the audio hug for parents going through the teenage years. I'm Rachel Richards, parenting coach, mother of 2 teenagers and 2 bonus daughters.
Hi there, I'm Susie Asley, mindfulness coach, mindful therapist, musician and mother of 3 teenagers. 2 of them are twins.
Now, normally the format is, well, I've done the odd interview, but mostly it's me doing lots and lots of research, and then we just get together with you with your wealth of knowledge to talk about it. And we thought it might be fun, and this is a tryout. So if you don't like it, don't give us no stars and tell us we're awful. Just message us and we'll go, okay, that's fine, we don't have to do this again. But we thought it might be fun to do something a little bit different, and we're going to call it News and Nuggets. And what we'll do is we'll put the nuggets into this particular format and also talk about some of the news stories that have been coming up in a way that's a little bit more informed. And the whole idea is that you get to hear us talking about things and the struggles we have. And you'll either agree or disagree with us. You can message us. We love to hear from you. And so when it comes to news, that's my background. I'm a trained news journalist, did a postgrad in it. And every single place I've been, there's always the same format. You start off with the top headline story, which is sometimes hard to choose, but most of the time it's pretty obvious what it's going to be. And then you go down the running order. And then right at the very end is the fluffy dog story. Right. And that's just to entertain people, a little bit of lightness to finish off and the weather. But I'm in charge. So we're not going to start with hard, heavy news. We're going to start with the fluffy dog story.
Brilliant.
Something fun.
Yeah.
Right? Let's start with something fun. Perfect. So the fun thing I'd like to start with, and we'll do a little review read in a minute, but the fun thing I want to start with is something I saw on Twitter. And it was a lady called Dr. Emma Kell who talked about teen slang. And she said, when I'm distracted by work and not listening, I get, "Don't leave me unread, Mum." And now it's really, what's really funny about this is that this is something that our teens talk about all the time.
Yeah.
You know, they don't like, so you're supposed to respond immediately when you get a message, aren't you? And if they've read a message, they say, Mum, I need to, no, I've got to respond straight away. I can't read it if I'm not ready to respond. And I find that really weird.
Yeah, maybe, I think that's particularly for girls, I think.
Is it? It's not boys?
I mean, in my experience.
Interesting.
I think that's a girl thing.
Okay, so specifically girls, but this is a thing. You're supposed to. So what a lot of them do is they sideswipe. So you can sideswipe, so you can sort of see the message without showing that you've read
really?
it. Yes, and you can see if someone sideswiped you, because I've noticed somebody particular sideswiped.
Is this on WhatsApp or?
I think on WhatsApp you can see if they sideswiped you. I don't know Snapchat. I don't know. I don't have this stuff, but I just hear it through my teenagers. It's very entertaining. But the funny thing was this lady said that her teenager says, "Don't leave me unread," when actually it's "Don't leave me on read." So if you read something, you're supposed to respond straight away.
Yeah.
Even the nuances are hard, hey?
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing. I mean, I love this topic, and this is all news to me as well.
I've got one other one, which is "She's an NPC." Do you know what that is?
Yeah. Oh, that's said daily in my house.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, I don't know. Honestly,
do you know what it is?
I don't know I don't know what it stands for.
I
thought it was NPC to be honest.
NPC is a non-playing character.
Yes.
So they're an irrelevance.
Yes. No, it's NPC. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, my kids call each other that all the time.
I did not know that.
They call me that. Mum, don't be... I thought it was M, but it's N. I've just learned.
Okay.
Don't be an NPC, Mum. And I'm like, what?
Brilliant.
And actually every single day at the moment, and it goes in phases probably, but this has been a long phase. At dinner, I'll go, "I do not know what you're talking about. What are you saying? Speak normally." Because they have this wealth
Teen
of
speak.
Words that I just don't know what they are.
Creative.
Particularly one of them, actually.
I love it.
Well, yeah, it's really funny, but I sometimes like, please, I just don't know what you're
Maybe
talking
they're
about.
doing it deliberately.
Probably. Probably.
She thinks she's one of us, but hey.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
What have you got there, Susie? Which ones
did
you pick out?
So I've got Leng. She's Leng. Yeah, I've heard that one.
Ooh, what does that mean again?
That means she's beautiful or fit.
Oh, it doesn't sound very nice.
And the opposite of that is clapped, which is horrible. I've heard that and have told people off for using that.
Wow. That sounds like a venereal disease.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not very nice.
Yeah. As far as I know, it's not, but I've just revealed that I don't know what the ill mean. She's such a pick-me girl.
Oh,
that's used at my house.
Yeah. And a pick-me girl is somebody who tries to get lots of attention because she wants to be important. Yes. And she may not say that, she's just behaving.
No, it's a behaviour thing.
Yes, it's a behaviour thing. Yeah. Here's another one. This is an ingredients-only house, which means there are no snacks. Oh.
Yeah, no, that's not my house. So that's not used in my house.
And a daughter, when talking about a group of teens all dressed the same, hashtag copy and paste.
Copy and paste. Oh, yeah. I mean, I did find a website. This is ages ago, and it was called Roadman Talk or Roadman Speak or something. And I read it, and I was using it for something else, and it was so enlightening. I was like, oh my goodness! Like, I know all these words, and now I know what they all mean.
But do you use them?
I don't, but they do.
I was going to say, because I reckon if I actually tried using some of these words, they would be.
Oh, horrified. I know. No, I don't use them, but it's like a translation book for me. It's like, that's what they're talking about.
So Roadman Speak, guys, that's what we need.
Yeah, not all of the words, but where we live anyway. Very enlightening. What have I got here? Paper Kindle, a book. Oh, that's quite clever.
That is clever.
Yeah.
I've got Brexit being used in two different ways. So Brexit being, when the UK left the European Union, doing a Brexit, which is a savage tackle in football when no one benefits. Or this was used in a classroom by a boy who said he Brexited her in it, which meant he dumped her and then he regretted it.
Oh,
which I thought was brilliant.
Oh, I like that.
Yes.
It's quite clever.
So there's some very creative ones out there. We might come back to those.
Yeah, no, they're good.
Well. Yes. Good. Incidentally, we are, just found out, we're in the global rank of podcast top 5%.
Which is amazing.
Can you believe that?
No, I can't.
We are sitting in a bedroom just chatting and we've managed to do that. That's amazing. You guys, you're so wonderful, so supportive. Love all our listeners. Thank you.
Thank you. I actually didn't quite believe that, so I'm going to admit I actually Googled it after you sent me that, thinking she must have got it wrong.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for your...
And I found it.
Great, believe me. Yeah, I didn't know. It's just I was listening to some people talk about how you can find out data and I sort of pumped it in and thought, oh my goodness, that was quite a surprise. So a nice surprise, but it was a surprise. Yeah. So you've got a review there.
Love your latest episode, by the way. Thank you for sharing. I'm a child counsellor, so really useful for client sessions and therapeutic parenting. Oh, that's really nice to receive that. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful. I'm not quite sure which one that is, but the other one was it came through on Spotify. So on Spotify, you can now, at the bottom of the podcast, it asks you what you thought of the episode. And someone filled this in for us. Wow. And it was Kirsty. And she said, very helpful. First parenting podcast I have listened to and will definitely listen to more. This was on the emotional intelligence episode. So, wow, Kirsty, thank you so much for actually taking the time to do that.
Yes, thank you. I didn't even know you could do that on Spotify.
I know, how cool. Well, I think it's a new Spotify trying to create better communities and a chance to actually have a conversation with people who are listening, which I'm all in favour of. We are here. We are interested in what you think.
Yes.
Do tell us. If you don't like this, tell us. If you do like it, tell us.
Yeah.
Tell us what you'd like to include. So, Susie, your nugget.
My nugget this week is I've just written a post about it actually, and it's just a good reminder for me that the things that we get triggered in our kids are the things we can use to get to know ourselves a bit better, like self-awareness. Yes. So when we get all of our triggers are an opportunity to look at, well, why am I being triggered? What is that saying about me? It's never a coincidence. So this morning, one of my kids, who is very, very good at losing things, and had lost two pieces of his PE kit again. And I was like, and it's always at the last second, so there's no time to go and look properly, and it's really stressful. And that's a normal reaction. So it's a normal reaction to be annoyed by that. I have no problem with being irritated by that, but I get really triggered by it, and I can feel, because I've done lots of awareness practice, I can feel that is different from normal irritation.
Wow.
And it's like a nanosecond thing, isn't it? It's a reactive thing. And I've looked at it before and unpacked it. And it's because I also struggle with being organized. That is a challenge for me to keep hold of my stuff and to be organized. That's something I've had to practice and have strategies for. So when he loses stuff, or in the house things get lost, it triggers my chaos and my kind of, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to find that. That goes directly into my own bag.
Wow.
So that's really useful information for me.
Susie, that's amazing.
Yeah. So when it happens in the moment, because I try and practice it, and it doesn't, I'm not perfect, I'm human. Instead of, seeing it all about him, I can try and separate, okay, which bit is actually reaction to this moment and what is actually happening in this moment, and what's my old rubbish.
Yes.
And try and leave that to one side and go, okay, well, I'll look at that later if I need to. And then also have empathy with him, because I know firsthand how annoying it is to lose it and to not know where stuff is. So like, I understand this is really annoying. I also told him off because I'm going, you better go and look in the lost property today, mate. Otherwise it's going to be very expensive. That kind of thing. But that it's clean and it's clear and it's not being messed up with my own old stuff. And it's a practice. I'm not perfect at it at all.
I think we sort of talked about that in our divorce episode, didn't we? Where, we were saying, if you feel unreasonably triggered by something your teenager's doing, have a look at what's going on. And my husband does this. One of his daughters, he's quite similar. And whenever she leaves the milk out, he gets really cross. But guess who leaves the milk out more than anyone in the family and opens bottle after bottle after bottle?
It's projection. It's projection.
Yes,
it's classic
it's
projection.
normal.
We get more annoyed by the stuff that we do ourselves.
Yes.
It's classic psychotherapy, but when we see it in our teenagers, it's even more triggering.
Yes.
So it's really good awareness. So every time we feel triggered, and we don't have to do it every time because that would be trying, but every time we get that kind of tension, that feeling, we know once you recognize that you know what it is, you can go, okay, I now have the choice to just unpack that, have a look at that, maybe not in the moment but later.
I think that's a brilliant tip, and your point about actually noticing how it feels in your body, because you've talked about that before, that the sensation in your body, once you can recognize it and you can see it's different, then you know that you can focus on it. Love it.
And you can respond proportionately to the actual event rather than kicking off about your own stuff.
Love it.
Ideally.
Yes. Well, not always, quite often not, but
no.
My nugget this week is actually because I've had two completely separate conversations with people. One was a teenager and one was actually a friend of mine, where they both ended up spiraling. And what I mean by spiraling is they were really struggling with something that was very, very difficult for them. And I was really in a fortunate position where we were having a conversation and they felt I was safe to talk to about it. But I actually witnessed the spiral starting to happen, where they said, "Oh, and this has happened, and I'm upset," and then they just went. I could hear it happening. Yeah. It was amazing. And I, with the teenager, I said, stop, just stop, breathe. And then I explained it it's so interesting. It reminded me of when I was a journalist and I'd gone on a press junket and I was at NASA, lucky me. And they had one of those machines, I don't know if you can picture it, where you get strapped into, it's a metal circle, and it pivots in any direction. And it starts off slow and it goes faster and faster and faster. And they said the reason they designed this was they were trying to work out whether a human being who was in a spaceship that had, lost its axis, had sort of come off and started spinning, whether they could arrest the spin. And they can't. So it just turned into a fun thing to make people do. But it made me think of that. And the only way you can stop it is by stopping it. Like literally you have to press the off button. And I said to both of them, when this happened, wow, just stop. Stop thinking. It's not an easy thing to do on your own, but you can, if you have somebody with you, you can be the person who says, you need to stop thinking right now. And just breathe, because your brain they've got stuck in a downward spiral. And I think I stopped and thought about it, and I thought, I do have the ability to arrest that. But the way I do it is I literally think, oh wow, I'm losing things, and I'm just going to stop.
Yeah, that's amazing awareness to witness it as well. I mean, it sounds a bit slightly akin to just before a panic attack, where you're looping and you're spiraling, it's escalating, and stopping and using your senses is a really good way of stopping
I like that.
So you want to get out of your head, which is all fear-based, probably. And if you to snap back into the present moment where you can just go, oh yeah, here I am, is to use your senses,
like,
what can you see?
Yes,
for panic attack, it's name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can smell, 2 things you can touch or whatever, 1 thing you can taste. And then by saying all of that aloud, you have to be present, and then you stop spiraling.
Brilliant tip. I knew you'd have a good tip because I do this instinctively because I can tell that I'm really starting to struggle when I'm really starting to struggle. But it's obvious that adults and teenagers can really find this difficult.
Yes.
And they end up going into my life isn't worth it anymore.
Absolutely.
From something that's
from nothing.
Yes.
It's snowballing, catastrophizing. There's loads of terms for it, but to get out of that washing machine nonsense that we all have in our heads is through presence and through our senses.
Great tip. Thank you. So the other thing we were going to do is talk about news stories. Now, we've in the UK just recently had the conferences of the political parties, specifically the Conservative Party, which is the ruling party and has been forever. And they were sort of talking about the things that they're planning for the next year or so, or however long they're going to be running the country. And the government headline was, the Department for Education wants children to be stopped from using mobile devices at break times, as well as in classrooms, to tackle disruptive behaviour and online bullying. So this is a kind of a ban on the headline was ban on mobile phones in schools. And it was really an interesting topic because just before that came out, my daughter's school and one other school that I know of implemented an 8 until 4:30 ban on mobile phones.
Yeah.
Which I thought, gosh, did they know something? Did they realise this was what's going on there? What about you? Do you know if are your kids not allowed to use their phones at school?
All of this surprised me because I thought the general consensus in schools was that you can't use your phone in school times.
Interesting.
Mine go to a school where they get the train there and back, so to have a phone is actually really handy, and they will have it. I mean, they will have one anyway, but for practical reasons, it's handy because the trains are useless. They've always been cancelled and all of that. So it's really, handy and important actually at the beginning and the end of the day, but that they're not allowed to use them in the daytime. And that's been like that for forever. And I just thought that, and I think my nephews is the same. I just thought all schools had that rule already. I mean, they do kind of sneak their phones and send the odd text. If like my daughter will send something if she's forgotten something, something really practical, she'll sneak to the loo and do it. But they're not allowed. And if they get caught, then they get, I don't know if they get their phone taken away or I can't remember. There's a consequence. But I thought that was normal. So for it to be a big news story, it kind of was like, really? Oh, okay.
Well, but that's the interesting thing because someone said, this isn't news. They haven't been able to use their phones. A lot of other people said, thank God.
Yeah.
So clearly there's no clear, in the UK at least, rules about having phones in schools when you're allowed to use them.
Yeah.
And even with this, it would still be left to individual teachers.
Yeah. Okay.
And a guy called Bradley K. Bush on Twitter actually wrote a thread exploring some of the research behind the issues with mobile phones. One study found that just being near a mobile phone can reduce concentration levels by 20%. Poor psychological health, including increased anxiety, feelings of loneliness and low self-esteem, sleep and the impact on melatonin. These are all different studies that came up with issues to do with using mobile phones. And then, interestingly, delayed gratification. Various studies have found that frequent phone users experience shorter attention spans. And the social skills side is an interesting one because one man said they've just banned phones in my kids' school and I went in and it was amazing because suddenly everyone seemed to be out talking with each other and it just seemed very different. And he said, I asked one of the teachers what the impact had been and he said, wait for it, fewer toilet breaks.
Oh, of course. Yeah, that's what my daughter
Yes.
texts me if she needs something.
Isn't that
She goes
interesting?
to the loo and does it.
Yes.
That's really funny. But in this school then, were they just allowed to use their phones whenever they liked then? Before that? That sounds weird.
See, I don't know. And actually, if I'm honest, I'm not entirely sure when my daughter was allowed to use her phone in her school before, and she was delighted, frankly. A lot of schools use yonder pouches so that when the kids come into school, you pop them into these pouches and they can't transmit a signal. So they're offline. One of the things that I think is really interesting about this is the safeguarding side, because having seen a lot of people talking from the safeguarding perspective, the big issue is sexting and bullying. And I know of incidences where you see the schools don't know what to do. Like, what are you supposed to do? So, for example, one kid filmed a fight on his phone, sent it to his little group of friends, and somehow it was sent off, and it ended up with the head teacher. The point being, you don't know who this is going to end up with.
Yeah.
And then the school felt it had to do something about it. And the other one was, children exchanging explicit photos. And if the school finds, or somebody says something about this, or the school finds out about it, it's a really difficult safeguarding issue.
Yes.
So I think the schools this is a hot potato, they don't want to get involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really problematic for them, isn't it? In our country, where most kids wear uniform, if they're filming something in school and they're in their uniform, then they're identifiable.
Yes. Or if they film the teachers in classrooms, any of that. Yeah. The converse is that I've been contacted by a lady who has an Instagram account, which is Fabulous Alternative Brains, and she's dyslexic. Her children are dyslexic, and she talks about how actually, if you have neurodiversity, mobile phones can be incredibly helpful in terms of planning in school hours. And also there's an argument that we are going to have to use them in the workplace. So there needs to be a transition where they get used to scheduling and using them. But I think when they're quite young, before they get to sort of 18, there's no risk. Exactly. I mean, these things are really, really
That's like training
user-friendly.
toddlers to learn to like ice cream,
Oh, exactly.
they'll work that out.
It would quite. So I just thought it was a really interesting topic. I don't know what
interesting about the diversity thing though, and needing and using mobile phones for structure, because one of mine is quite dyslexic, and he always had a laptop in school. He was given permission to use a laptop. He had to have the certain typing skills before you're allowed that, etc., and he used them in exams, and that was really helpful and beneficial. But I'd be interesting to see, well, what does a mobile phone give that?
Yeah, right, because you can have, and actually my daughter has brought that up, and I said to her, well, you need to have, before you leave a classroom, you need to have on your laptop a pointer saying this is going to be your next lesson. Yeah. It's very easy to set up. So it's about helping them to create these reminders on their devices that they're using in the classroom.
Yes, rather than saying you can use your mobile.
Yeah. So there's that. I'd be love to know what other viewers, listeners rather. We don't have viewers yet, but you never know one day. What other listeners? I'd love to know what other listeners think about these topics. What about the government announcement that it wants to overhaul 16 plus education?
Very interesting, very overdue in my humble opinion.
Oh, this is really interesting. So, yes, because this feels like a very English topic, but it's not. It's not. But so tell me, why do you think that's overdue?
Well, I mean, he was talking about A-levels, wasn't he? Which is our final 2 years. I think GCSEs need a big overhaul. I mean, I think the whole thing needs an overhaul in many ways. Don't get me started. But I think having the idea, isn't it, that they have more subjects. So we channel down into 3 subjects, which is, has lots of pluses. But A-levels are a massive step up from GCSEs. And for some kids, that's fine. But for a lot of kids, the step up is really challenging. And it separates it separates in a way that maybe isn't great, where a lot of kids feel they're unable to do that. So to have some alternatives, I think, is a brilliant way. And to make it more vocational, because, we don't need a whole load more academics. And I know A-levels aren't, the next step isn't academia, but it is very much weighted on academia. And to have more vocational subjects, I think, is absolutely overdue.
Fascinating, because what they're talking about is having, rather than just 3 subjects, you take 5 subjects. English and maths are compulsory, but the other 3 subjects could be vocational or they could be academic.
Yes.
And they're trying to broaden out the understanding and the knowledge of teenagers. It's interesting because I did a little search, because talking about GCSEs, which happen at 16 here, where you have these quite weighty exams.
Ditch
sometimes
them, I say. Ditch them.
Well, it's interesting because I read a couple of articles saying we are the only people who examine so hard at that age. And and in America, the high school diploma isn't dependent on these exams. What they have is SATs, which are commercial exams, which assess college readiness, and you can take them over and over, from what I understand. I don't live in America. Please correct me if I'm wrong. What I thought interesting was that it's not true that we are the outliers. There was a Cambridge study by Arenka Suto that rebutted it, saying that 14 countries use external assessment at 15 and 16 against 7 that don't in the study. And these are high-performing countries. So I thought, okay, that's interesting. But still, what are we trying to do? Because I think the big problem we've got is that across the world, we don't really know anymore what we need to be teaching our kids.
No, we don't.
It's not clear.
No, and I what I don't like about it is that it's, and I see it and experience it, these children who are, and maybe in some places, in some schools, this doesn't apply, but what I have seen is children who just are switched off from learning. They're being taught this, and this is nothing to do with the schools or the teachers. I think the teachers are wonderful. It's the structure and the system that I have a problem with. They're switched off from learning, and they're of an age where they should be hungry to learn. They should be curious about the world. They should want to know. They should want to be, sucking up all the knowledge that they find relevant. And you see it when they get interested in something, they're like sponges. But the GCSE model is like regurgitating, and it's focusing on what results are you going to get.
What can we test?
And you need to know this for a result rather than for the sake of learning it. That's my problem with it.
I think we've got a real problem.
What the rest of the world do,
No, I think in this country we do that. And Jeanette said the UK education isn't fit for purpose. She says that she thinks some people would struggle if you put in 5 subjects. Her kids would. Tween Teen Mum says she doesn't think it's really what's best for our teenagers. She wants more research and conversations outside Parliament. Interestingly, I've got a friend who trains investment bankers for a living. So what happens is graduates who come into investment banks, they need to be trained in a quite a wide range of core skills. So they want to make sure they've all got, and that's his job. And he flies Hong Kong, New York, London. And he anecdotally said that the Asian countries are blowing the UK out of the water in terms of their maths competency and their science competency. He said we can't touch them. However, in terms of interpersonal skills and just the ability to problem solve, he thinks we are doing far better. So the question is, what are we trying to achieve here? And my husband says that, in Asia, he says, oh, yeah, okay, well, so China's doing really, really well in maths, studies, because they approach it in a different way. But he said, you haven't had anyone win a Fields Medal. God knows, he's nerdy mathematician. But he said, which is creative mathematics, he said, they don't come out of Asia. It's the European model that actually creates people who've got that, come at it from a different angle.
Yeah. But you're absolutely right. Any change to any school system needs to start from the place of what's the purpose of school.
Absolutely.
Why?
What did we try? Because here's a fascinating thing, because I was talking on BBC Surrey recently, and one of the stories was this particular subject. And one of the other headlines I saw was that there's a chap at a Hong Kong university professor who said, we need to stop trying to get people to write essays from the start and checking whether they've used the AI. We need to actually tell them, write your best AI essay.
Yes, because they're going to do
go
that
out. Yes, go. Well. Interestingly, because I've tried using AI for podcast notes just because it's available.
Yeah.
It's awful. It's absolutely doesn't sound like me. It's laughable. Some of it's garbage. So the truth is that there's a lot to be said for that. And actually, when you use AI, so again, my friend who teaches investment bankers, he does use AI to do some of his marketing. He said, we have to give them all the sources that it needs to go to. It then works through those sources, creates a standard document, like a foundation document, and then we work with that. Yeah,
I've used it a little bit with presenting and preparing for stuff, and some of it sounds amazing, so I pick bits out and then do my own bits. It's like a patchwork thing. But going back to the schools thing, schools were originally created to, as a form of childcare. When they first came into being, well, also to create some people who can work in factories, and who know how to do what they're told. Yeah, exactly. So it's and some of schooling is maybe still influenced by that, and we need to modernize. and use the people who know what they're talking about. I think often governments they come with educational policies, and I have a lot of teacher friends and family. They don't. I'm sure they do consult, but they don't always consult with the people who are the experts. They push things forward, don't they, as a sort of vote winner, and it's not always in the interests of the kids or the education, and they're not using the massive wealth of experience that is out there.
And the skeptics would say they're actually just trying to divert attention from the real problems, which are lack of teacher retention, lack of pupils even turning up to school, and the buildings falling down. Yeah,
but anything that is more vocational is going to engage, I think, is going to engage more of the kids, because when it's all about the academics, it turns off a huge group of kids.
Yes. South Korea, just so we've got a roundup of what happens elsewhere. In South Korea, they have one of the most grueling entry tests for college, which is called the College Scholastic Ability Test. It's 8 hours. Really, 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 really tough. So they're on an extreme. In Finland, 66% of students do go on to college, which is the highest rate in Europe. And there, children are consistently ranked highest achievers for math, reading and science. They don't even start school till they're about 7.
Yeah.
Different approach. And China, they place the emphasis on practicing maths and learning in groups. They're not, it's quite individual in the UK. They'll set tasks and each individual works on things. It's a different approach in some of the Asian countries. So I think the truth is there will be cultural things that will inform the decision about an education system. And then I think the biggest problem we've got now is we don't know how we're supposed to furnish our kids for the future.
No, absolutely. We're not on a sort of subject matter way. Of course we don't, because the jobs that our kids will get, we don't even know what they look like or anything like that at the moment. So how about we educate our kids so that when they leave school, they feel really good about themselves. They feel really comfortable. They feel they can be creative. They can really be the best version of themselves, whatever that looks like. And then they will just fly with whatever jobs are thrown at them.
And so my daughter's having to do GCSEs at the moment. She's 15. And I keep saying to her, I'm much less interested in the grades you get than what you learn about yourself from having to go through the experience of learning. And I think we want people who are prepared to learn and who can continue learning, because actually I think we're not going to have one job. Most people are going to have multiple careers now. And they'll just have the people who will win are the people who are prepared to keep learning and enjoy learning.
And interested in stuff, whatever that looks like. And feel good about themselves, that have, are resilient and have a sense of who they are, and how they can interact with fellow humans.
No, absolutely.
Then they'll be fine, whatever they do.
So before we go, a couple more little teen slangs that came from this thread. You're not the main character.
Yep. That's a daily one in our house.
I agree. It's great. Hey, and that's someone who's being a touch self-absorbed, or she's got main character energy.
Yeah, that one. Gosh, these are all really resonating.
And talk in lowercase, not capitals.
Oh, I haven't heard that one.
And he or she doesn't touch grass.
Oh.
That's for someone who likes to stay at home gaming and doesn't go out.
Okay. Oh. Yeah. I mean, we have all the little ones of bruv, and I can't even think of them. There are so many. I should write them down.
They're great, aren't they? I think we need a little list. I might actually put these into a list. Shall I do that? In the podcast notes? And then just finally, I quite like it's not that deep, which means it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And my daughters often say that. They'll be like sobbing about something. They go, it's not that deep.
Yeah. Oh, I get that back at me. Like if I'm complaining about something, it's not that deep, Mum. It's not that deep.
And then they use it as a verb. I deeped it,
Oh.
which means I thought about it.
Oh, I haven't had that one. You can put anything into a verb form, can't you, apparently?
I know. It's very stressful. We need to learn, Susie. We've got to keep learning.
They just roll their eyes and go, yeah, why don't you understand us? You're using a whole different vocabulary.
Keep up. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this new version. It doesn't have to stay this way. We can change the format completely if you hate it. Just let us know, but give us some feedback.
Yeah, we're trying this out. It's been really fun.
We're trying it out, yeah. You can reach us at teenagersuntangled@gmail.com. Hit the follow button on your app or give us some stars. You can find more on the website, www.teenagersuntangled.com. And we're on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. Susie, she has her own Instagram account, which is kind of linked. Whenever I talk about things, I'll always link her. So what's your...
So I've got my website, which you can find all my social media links on. And the website is www.amindful-life.co.uk.
And she has those sorts of amazing tips, like when you're going into spiral, here's how you cope, here's how you get out of it. Wealth of knowledge. Go to Susie.
Come and speak to me.
Come and speak to Susie. She's really nice. That's it for now.
Brilliant. Bye for now.